Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another Culture Days workshop. My name is Carly. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Southern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium. Just before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this is a video, so if you need to pause at any point in time or go back, you can do that right on YouTube. If you have any questions for Maya, please put them in the chat on YouTube, and I'll make sure that we get them to her within our time today with her. That's all for me. I'm just going to pass it on to Aaron.
Thanks, Carly. Hi, my name is Aaron Coates. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a facilitator at the Southern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium, and I'd like to begin today with an acknowledgement of the land. We acknowledge that what we call Alberta is the traditional and ancestral territory of peoples residing in the Treaty Regions 6, 7, and 8. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. All right, so welcome wherever this finds you throughout Alberta, in Calgary, in Edmonton, or parts elsewhere. I'm very pleased now to turn it over to the amazing Maya Corona.
Hey! Hey everyone, thank you for joining today. I am Maya Corona. I am a graphic designer and an artist. And we're today here to learn a little bit about watercolors. And we have 1 hour, so we have to do all, use that hour very good. The exercise today is to get better at understanding how to use watercolor, how to use the brushes, and how to mix the water and the paint. So if you in your class have some paper, the best thing to have is a thicker paper. So because we're using water, sometimes the water and paper can get too wet, and when it dries, it kind of shrinks and it warps, and it just our pieces don't look very good. There's some ways to stretch the paper, but that we're not worrying about that today. The exercise we're going to do today is learning how to make some of these leaves with our watercolor. And so this is a very easy exercise. And what we're going to use is it's watercolor paper, some tape if you want, not necessary, a brush size 12, but well, the bigger the better. If you don't have a brush this big, it's fine. You can go a bit smaller and it will have a smaller detail in your painting. Some watercolor, whether you have it in tubes or you have it in little pansets, or the tubes you can squeeze it in a palette, and your water, because we're going to use lots of water today, and a paper towel with you. Okay, and the exercise is simple. We're going to start by taping our paper, and you can do any design that you want. This is your art. You can do whatever you feel like today. This one is kind of like a star shape, and we're going to have different patterns around. These are just some examples of other classes that where we have practiced this exercise. So like you see, you can put the tape however you want. You just want to make sure you have 2, 4, 6 spaces to do all these little exercises. You can just trace with a pencil and keep your exercises separate, and then maybe later on you can cut them and make a little card with them, or just go and do it flat in one, or like random. You don't need to separate the exercises. Ready? So to start the class, what we want to know is that with our brush, we are going to need lots of water. That means that we want to, let me bring this a bit farther. That means that we want to put the brush in the water, not just dip it a little bit. We want to get the brush in the water so all the water can come and travel a little bit into the barrel. And that water is going to start coming off while we're working. So that's very important. Try to put your brush in the water, get it really, really wet. And to activate our paint, we're just gonna have water in the brush and add some drops into the paint. That's one easy way to activate your paint. And you wanna do that before you start painting. Activate all the colors that you think you might use. So that way, when we start painting, the pigment is already soft and we can lift and grab the paint easier. Okay. And once we leave, well, we're gonna leave this wet and we're gonna start taping our paper. Today I have a 9x12 sheet. You might have a smaller sheet or a bigger sheet. If you have a smaller sheet, you might be able to just do 2 or 3 exercises if you just have half of the sheet. But if you have a bigger sheet, then you can do as many as you want. And let's say I'll do just 4 here, like that. It depends the space that you have in your paper. If your sheet is too big or too small, I could have another one here. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. Like I showed you before, this is the exercise. If you see this, my tape this time was a little bit thinner, so I have more space. But today we're gonna we're gonna use 2 pages, and you can do a full page if you want. And we're gonna start with this exercise to understand how to use our brush and how to press, how much pressure do we need to do this exercise. So usually we start by, I'm going to use darker colors so you guys can see very good. And let's do with this green. You can go directly to the pigment. And if you want to mix some of the colors, you can use either a palette on the side, a plate, any surface that doesn't make a mess. I have this little flat space here for me to mix some colors. And sometimes I like to mix some of my colors. Always rinse your brush before picking a new color. And let's say I'm gonna add a little bit of this blue. So it kind of makes a little, like a teal color. And you can pick any color you want. So now that we have the brush really, really wet and loaded, we want to make sure that it's not dripping too much. So if we have a big drop at the bottom, it's not gonna be easy for us to control the water that comes down. So make sure that if you see a drop, just go into your paper towel and dab a little bit. Enough that you see the sheen in the bristles and the brush. And this first exercise is super simple. The idea is that we put very, very little pressure with the tip of the brush, and we make a little line. And then we're gonna press the whole brush to it. and that is gonna make a leaf. And then we're gonna start lifting very, very slowly. See? It's a very easy way to make some leaves if you're working to make a bouquet, or you want to make something, just something that looks good. And here I'm going to show you again. You can go up, down, do them as whatever you want. So I'm loading my brush again, and make sure that it's not dripping. And then I'm gonna go from the top, very little pressure, so it makes that line, and then I'm gonna press. And the good thing about having the tape is that I can go over, and it's masking it, so the paint won't go through, so we can see it separately. And this is something that maybe you can give to somebody you want to give a gift to, and maybe you can hang it, because sometimes these end up being a really cool exercise that you can hang it in the living room or give to your friends as cards. So little pressure, and then press. If you guys have any question, please let us know in the chat, and just have fun here. Enjoy the process. And if you feel like, I don't know, maybe I want to add more color into this, I want to make it a little bit more brighter, and I'm going to add some yellow into my green. And it has the yellow, and then adding the green, it's going to kind of mix it, and sometimes it does really cool effects. So very thin line. And then press and lift very slowly. In watercolor, we like these little accidents that happen. And in this technique, what I'm using right now is a technique that is used for loose florals, which is creating something like this. So you will be able to do all these little fillers that I call into a piece that you can create later on for a card, artwork. I'm just gonna do one here. Yeah, so just enjoy how the brush, feel the brush, how it moves, what's the shape that happened. Sometimes depends of the angle of the brush, you can give, you can guide these leaves a little bit more. And remember that in nature, we don't have a lot of, just give me a sec, because my computer didn't connect. Okay, so, whoa. We're gonna keep just doing these ones, these leaves, and we're gonna just enjoy how you're using it, and make sure if you feel that you have way too much water, like let's try one that is so you can see if it's too much water. So there, when I try to do it, I won't have as much control, and it's gonna see how it puddles, and that's fine. if you have some of your leaves that have a big puddle in them, you can push the puddle around and that will make it a little bit more even. And you can even move the water. The more water you put in there, it will contain where you put it, but there will be a point where the water is just gonna spill. And you don't wanna do that if you want to have some control. So let's keep doing some here. This exercise helps you a lot to just get into the creative flow. Sometimes we don't know what to paint or what we want to do. And just by creating these little shapes, it can help us to open up our minds and create a little bit more of that flow of creativity. I can even use some of this color. If you want to lift, you have too much water in your brush, something like that, you could grab your paper towel. Actually have a bunch around. And if I do just a little tiny pointy and I just start lifting, I am not touching the paper. I'm just trying to grab all the water and letting absorb it. Because if I touch, it will move the paint and it will lift the paint. And unless you want to do that, go ahead. But if you don't want to interrupt or like make it look weird, just try to touch the water. Okay. So we're gonna keep doing some of these leaves. Thin, thick, and lift. With loose florals, something in this technique, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you have these wisps at the end, and that's totally perfect because what's fun about painting loose florals is that you are able to, you don't have to worry about looking perfect. This is something that with few brush strokes you're creating, and it's just so much fun. So just fill up the space that you're working on. Some of these leaves can be thicker, and it's okay. Like, the idea is to do it in one stroke, but it's okay also to go back and fix that. Like if I do it here and, oh, I want this part to be a little bit thicker, I can go back always and fix that. Right? So I'm barely touching and then I'm pressing and lifting slowly. If I don't want to have all those wisps, the brush stroke, when it happens. And then, we do another one, this somewhere here. And the idea is just to feel this and learn, like, think about what is it that you are learning here. Like, how is that brush moving? If I press right away and drag my brush and lift it slowly, it's gonna do a nicer point end. But if I just go, whoop, it's gonna have a tiny little bit of that wisp of the brush stroke. So yeah, the idea with watercolor and really anything is to explore and discover what you like about it, what you don't like about it, right? and mix the colors that are your favorite colors, because that's art, expressing yourself. Okay, so this is our first exercise. I hope you guys are enjoying it. And we're gonna move to the second exercise. This one, it has a little bit what we saw here, but this time we are going to start with a very, very thin line. So doing this. And for that is what I want to do. It's painting a very thin line by adding very, very little pressure. You can start from whatever, like up, down, from the side, up to you. We're gonna do a long line, and then we're gonna press. Same thing as our exercise before, and lift slowly. And if you have the wisps and you don't want them, you just go back, press, lift. Okay, we have one. This is a three-leaf plant. And from here, from this one, we're gonna make another line that is gonna go this way now to the right. And I'm gonna press. And then I'm gonna do another one to the other side, a line again. And then we're gonna press the whole belly of the brush. And you see that sometimes they go straight, depends of how you move. The movement in your hand is how you are gonna be creating these leaves. Let's make something more yellow. I'm gonna mix this yellow, and we're gonna have a yellow orange leaf because it's fall. So again, this might be a little too much paint. So I'm gonna get rid of some. So I can have a little bit better control. Line and press. And I'm now moving my hand to like a half circle and lifting. See? Then I'm gonna grab some orange. And from the center, I mixed it a little bit. I really like when that happens. And then I'm gonna do one to the other side. It feels like the leaf it has weight. It's going down, right? You can go up here, or you can either go to the other side. Okay. And just try to fill the space. I'm gonna have one coming from the top. And this way. So it's same technique as the first one, but remember, we're just coming from one stem to create this three-leaf branch. Sometimes, like if you see in this exercise, they're overlapping each other. And you can do this when you see that whatever you painted is already dry. And to know if it's dry, it has to be, it doesn't need, like if it's still shining, that if you can see the light reflected in here, you might want to wait, because if you try right now, it might lift some of that paint, and maybe you don't want that. So I'm gonna try one here that is dry, and I'm gonna try where it's not dry so you can see what happens. And this time I'm going to use some of that blue and green. Let's do one from here. And then one other side. With watercolor is a transparent medium, so it is really really fun because you can overlap and see what's behind it, and not all the mediums out there like acrylics or wash can do. That's a very nice thing that watercolors can do. So let's see. I think this is dry, and this is not dry, that little part here. And we're gonna see what happens now that I'm gonna try to do one and going over. It might just mix a little bit the color and it might look good. Yeah, not too bad. So yeah, just experiment. This is an exercise. There's not right and wrong. And mix as many colors as you want. I'm gonna keep the orange and blue. Looks really nice. I'm gonna do one over on this side. Thin, thick, and lift it slowly. Thin, and we are not gonna be able to see that one, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna do one more here. Is it dry? Yep, this one dried really, really fast because I didn't have a lot of water. So I'm gonna try one more. If I'm going too fast, let me know. And more blue on this side we need. One more. Just barely touching the paper to make the line and press. And I think that's good. One more here. Because why not? It's your exercise. You can do as many as you want. And yeah, try to practice this or some sort of this exercise. Just because they just you start feeling that you want to paint right after that. It's like, oh, I could paint something else, something really cool. So these are some exercises that when I don't know what to do, what to paint, I always come back to this and practice and see what happens, mixing colors. So the next exercise, we're gonna do this one. And this one, well, really, it's everything kind of has the same principle. It's just how we use the brush. This is a 2-stroke leaf. So we're gonna do the first one side and then the other side, okay? And these leaves are gonna be pink, magenta, because why not? And so we're gonna do first a thin, barely touching, and then press straight, and then lift slowly. And then the other side, that has too much paint, so I'm gonna, you can do it in the paint, get rid of that water, or you can just dab it in your paper. And the other one, it's gonna be right beside it. And we want to have it as close as possible, but don't worry about it if you touch the other side. Did you see how? So I started touching very little, and then I pressed down. And because the one before, it kind of dry a little bit already, I left some white space there. And by touching at the end, on the top, makes that the vine of the leaf. So yeah, just practice some of those, mixing your colors so it looks interesting. And so remember, it's like very little touch and then press. And because we're using a round brush, it will help us to do this like circular leaf. And then the other side, I'm trying to go to press and not touching the center until the end. And if they're not even, that's fine. You can come back and fill it up, or you can just leave it like that. Because like I said, it's loose florals. So in loose florals, we want that imperfection. Okay. And yeah, this one, let's see what happens. I'm gonna do another one, thin and thick, and lift. And then the other side. And when you use these ones, it's like maybe you're trying to fill up a space and your brush is too thin, so you might want to use this technique to fill up that that empty space that when you're painting. Thin, thick, and lift it slowly, and then very, very close to it. Follow the line and meet them at the end. Okay, I'm gonna move my paper a little bit. We didn't tape the paper to the table this time because we're not using as much water. So if you're using a lot of water, you might want to tape the paper to the table or to a board, because otherwise it might start warping and wrinkling, and it's not fun to work like that. Thin, and then press and lift slowly. And press and lift slowly. And these ones take a lot of practice. Don't get frustrated. Remember that this is just practices. If it looks kind of weird, that's totally fine. You can try again and try again. The idea is that you enjoy what you're doing. and discover new things. Okay. Awesome. And depending, yeah, you just, depending how your hand goes, it doesn't matter because in nature, nothing is perfect. Everything has imperfections. Leaves are organic. They, not all the leaves are exactly the same. They might look the same, but there's so many things that makes them different. So they don't have to be in a perfect shape for a leaf. And that one I start from the top and it didn't look very good, but that's okay. Something I want to show you in this one now that is like this. So I'm going to cover the whole thing. And I'm going to rinse my brush really, really good. If you feel that you're getting paint that you didn't want in your brush, it's because you're not rinsing very good. So just make like S motion in the water all the way to the bottom. And then it's clean, very clean. Now, I want it really clean because what I'm going to do is lift some of that paint that I put down to try to simulate what we've been doing. So I rinsed it and then I dried my brush and then I'm going in and the brush, because it's a little bit dry, it's gonna lift some of that wet paint. And it might give us that same effect that it gave the other ones. We can try one more time. So I'm gonna do another leaf, a full leaf this time. It's just like an oval shape, a little bit more pointy at the end. And maybe in this one, I'm gonna rinse my brush again. I'm gonna add maybe some more yellow. Now that it's wet, look. It's just gonna mix and it's gonna do something fun there. And then I rinse my brush and dry my brush. This one probably has way too much water. And when you have too much water, the water will try to cover what you try to lift. So sometimes you have to wait until it dries a bit more. If you keep going over with your brush and the water keeps coming up, it's because you might have too much water in what you just painted. Let's try another one where we can mix the colors. What we've been doing is a wet on dry technique. But I want to show you super quick in this one. I'm going to use this side. It's very wet. And so you have enough paint and enough water. And wet on wet technique is when you paint something, and obviously it's wet because we're using water, but at the same time, you don't wait like here for it to dry. You just go and add some color on top of that, and it blends nicely. So it can give us some really cool effects. I'm gonna do this one here. Gonna let it be there. I'm gonna add some of this yellow. And it just blends and it does whatever it wants to do here. There's not a lot of control and you can create really cool effects. Whether you're painting leaves, whether you're painting landscapes, using wet on wet technique, it's super cool to mix those colors, make a transition from one color to another, a seamless transition. Okay. Awesome. Now, take your time. This one you might want to go later and add extras if you feel like it. So now I'm turning because I'm a righty, so I'm gonna do it in this side. And we're gonna do, now that we're practicing that, we're gonna do this kind of like a palm leaf. And it's the same technique. We're gonna do a long stroke, and then we're gonna press. And all our leaves are gonna come from the same stem, okay? Let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna use this purple because it's fun. And I'm going to, that's enough. Up. Now come from down here, up. And then I'm gonna press and lift. And if you don't want that, the paint to stay on the top, you can always push it back. And it's just gonna follow where you put the water. Okay, and then very thin line. And it's kind of, these ones kind of go up and follow it, but not to the end. You just stop a tiny bit before that. And again, I'm gonna just push the water down. And I'm gonna mix that with some of these. This looks like, sorry, I'm gonna bring my palette closer. This one looks like a black, but it's a really, really deep blue. They call it Persian Blue, which is one of my favorites. I'm gonna mix some there. Okay, getting some of that purple. And so thin, thick, and going up, oops, again. And then another one, thin, thick, and lift slowly. You can do thin and thick, but that's okay. Nothing's perfect. And then I'll come back and do thin It can go up, and maybe this one feels like it's going down. And then this one goes up. You can do as many as you can fit in your line, as separate or together. There's different ones. So this one I made it down. I'm making sure it's dry. It wasn't, but that's okay. Because I want to go up again. So I'm gonna go over, up. This one, same. Maybe this one goes up here. Redo here because I want this one to be on top. And maybe when you wait for it to dry enough, you can always go back and do those details. Okay. On here. And I'm gonna turn this a little bit so I have a better angle and I'm able to move and not put my hand on top of something I did already, and I might drag all my paint over. So I'm gonna do another one. This might be a little bit smaller, just because the other one got too big. And this one is kind of going that way, and thin. And these ones you can make the leaves a little bit longer so they look like palm leaves. Here. The thinner you make them, it's just different looks. So and these ones are fun to make when you mix all those colors too, because gives them a little bit more of an interesting look. Now, how should I do this one? Maybe. Sorry, I'm moving. But this is how I work, and I have to have a good angle for me to be able to have control of my brush, right? So find the angle that you can work better. And so I'm going to do the line. And I'm going to mix some of this blue over here. And I'm going to do the same. Thin, thicker, thin, thicker. Maybe I'll redo this one because it didn't get too thick. You can start also from outside to the center, from thin to thicker. It's just, you need to find the way it works best for you. Sometimes for me, I feel like I need to try a few times. Right? And maybe this one feels like it needed a little bit thicker. And that is the first exercise. You can remove the tape now. If everything is dry, make sure everything that you're doing, it's dry. Otherwise, the water will go under the tape and it might make a little mess. So that's our first page of leaves, because we just put four four patterns here, and we want to do now, let's do, I think I'm missing one, but so we're gonna do this one and these little guys. They're like eucalyptus leaves, so we're gonna mix some colors there. And I'm gonna use a new piece of paper. That's the good thing about having these blocks of paper, that we can, once we're done and we want to move on to something new, you can just take it off and put it on the side, wait for it to dry, and then start something brand new. I'm gonna give you like a quick how to in these ones, and then you can finish them at home or later. I'm just gonna do half of this one because we have just 8 minutes to finish this little exercise. So the first one, it's what we've been doing, a stem. And you want to do kind of like a oval balloon shape by doing kind of like a C stroke and come back. So you go up, turn around, and come back. And then one on one side, up, around, and you might have to use the point to fill that up and come back. Because depending on of the angle that you have, will get easier or not so easy. So you go around and come back. And this one I had to go back, and that's okay, right? I'm gonna do one more now, coming from up down. If you feel that is kind of awkward, you can always lift your brush and try to do one side and then the other one. Yep, just like that. Or you can do one side and then the other side. And they can be uneven, one bigger, one smaller. And the stem doesn't have to, like, this is what I was talking about, one side and then the other, and then you just feel it's like a C. You're writing a C. And then invert the C. And then bring it to the center. Right? And for this is kind of like you guys can keep going, but we don't have a lot of time. So the next one, you can do it with the same brush, or if you have a smaller brush, that this will be the time where I might switch because they're a little bit smaller. So we want to have them have control. I am used to working with a thick brush, but if you have a handy one, smaller one, you can use the smaller one. But I'll do it with the big one, and then I'll show you how to do it. This time we're gonna have just the tip of the brush doing this exercise for us. It's a thin line, barely putting some pressure and making these little random oval shapes around. You can be close to them. These are just fillers for when we're creating a bouquet or something with flowers. Go all the way down. So like you see, it's very, very simple. They don't have to be perfect. You can mix all the colors you want. You can fill all your page like I did. You can make some bigger ones to some smaller ones. This one, like you see, I'm barely touching with just the tip of it. If your brush is really thick, just try to use your just the tip of the brush. That helps. And don't press too hard. And if you want to make them really big, that's totally fine. So this is the class for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Maya, thank you so much. These leaves are so magical. Watching them go from just a brush to this beautiful thing, it feels like a magic trick. I love it so much.
Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and yeah, it's just so fun, right, to make them.
Of course.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go, Aaron. You go.
I was just gonna say, Maya, you said that that someone might give this for a gift. I think my daughter Kingsley is doing this, so I'm hoping that I will receive this as a gift later on today.
Yes.
So if you're listening,
that will be awesome. Yeah. These exercises are perfect for those gifts or little cards, something that you want to do and for somebody you love. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone who's watching, I would love to see your work, and I know Maya would too. So I put the email address that you can send it to in the chat, or you can tag us on social media at Jube School, and we'll make sure it all gets to Maya. Thank you so much. We have one Culture Days workshop left tomorrow. It's Bollywood dancing. So join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. I know, you should come.
Yes.
Okay, everyone, thanks. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks. Bye.